Hey guys, my name is Loveless, and this time we're here with Drowning, all the way to chapter 7, the final chapter, finally. So let's get straight into it. When Aizawa and two students made it to the nurse's office, they found Bakugo worriedly pacing the length of the room, while Kirishima and Sero sat in the chairs and just watched. "How is he?" Ashido asked, walking over to stand by Kirishima, placing a hand on his shoulder. "He's gonna be just fine. Bakubro is just panicking," Sarah mumbled to her, quietly enough on edge Blonde didn't hear. The print girl let out a sigh of relief from his words. "That's good to hear." Aizawa was standing there at the doorway, his arms crossed as he observed his students. "How long has this been going on?" he asked them. "What?" Bakugo asked, finally stilling his movements. Aizawa just sent him a knowing look. The blonde turned to Ashido and Kaminari. "Which one of you snitched?" he snapped. Kaminari looked over to the pink girl, clearly scared of their friend. She rolled her eyes at both of them, raising her hand. "He would have found out anyway. There's no way Recovery Girl wouldn't notice. She legally would have to let him know." Bakugo seemed to contemplate snapping her neck before deciding against it. "You have to be the one to tell him when he wakes up, then." She nodded, accepting defeat. The tired pro hero just sighed at the teenagers. "How long?" he asked again. "We've only known this for about a week," Ashido answered. Bakugo shook his head. "It's been like this for most of the school year, at least." The group frowned at him, clearly not knowing Izuku well as he did. They had no idea before the boy had even started sitting with them at lunch. Recovery Girl approached the small group, going straight to Aizawa. "I assume you know by this point." He nodded. "Great. He'll need to start getting some form of therapy. He got lucky this time. But I don't want to see him get this bad ever again," she said in a stern tone, eyeing Aizawa to make sure the teacher understood just how severe the situation was. He nodded again, looking over to the bed his student was currently passed out on. The older man had a frown on his face as he watched the faint rise and fall of the problem child's chest. The boy just couldn't stay out of trouble even for a week, could he? Recovery Girl looked at the 5 other students who were crowding her office. She seemed hesitant to speak again with them present. "They're fine, don't worry," Aizawa said. She looked at him with a small amount of surprise before continuing. "I'm going to put him on a few vitamin supplements and work up a diet that someone needs to make sure that he actually follows. He'll probably need some medication, but without proper psych eval, I won't know what yet." Bakugo nodded as he looked over to where Izuku was lying. "We can make sure he follows the diet and take his meds if he needs to." Recovery Girl smiled at the blonde. "That's very kind of you, kids." He looked down awkwardly, unsure of what to say to that. In the end, he just mumbled, "Yeah," before looking away as quickly as possible. Ashido and Kaminari stifled their laughs at the interaction. "He'll probably have a headache when he wakes up. He has next to no energy to use for healing, so there isn't much I can do," your recovery girl explained with a frown. "But he had no serious injuries, just exhaustion and a bruise on the noggin." Bakugo nodded, signaling that he was listening and understood. "Just gotta wait," he mumbled to no one in particular. When Izuku came to, the first thing he noticed was the pounding in his head. He's easily experiencing the worst headache of his life at that moment. He groaned as he brought a hand up to his head, trying to pry his eyes open. The room was suddenly blindingly bright, so he could only blink a few times before shutting them again. "Hey, let me help," he heard a voice say quietly. The next time he tried to open his eyes, it was significantly easier. The room darker than before. He guessed whoever had spoke had shut the lights off. Kacha?" he asked, as he finally was able to keep his eyes open. The only thing he could do was make out a blob of blonde hair, but he knew Bakugo too well to mistake it for anyone else. Yeah, Deku, it's me, Bakugo said back, his voice quiet for once in his life. Izuku tried to push himself up onto his arms, but the room started to spin as he did. He was quickly pushed back down. Take it easy, nerd. You just woke up, Bakugo scolded. What happened? Izuku asked, looking up at him from where his form was once again lying. Bakugo crossed his arms and his face took on the ever so familiar scowl. You tripped on your own 2 feet and smacked your head on the ground and then passed out. Oh. I told you to sit out, Bakugo said, a frown still on his face. Izuku didn't say anything after that. What was he supposed to say? Bakugo had told him he shouldn't train that day, and he ignored him. Look where that got him. Now he's in the nurse's office. Wait, he was in the nurse's office? She would have tried to heal him from the pain in his head. Izuku knew it didn't work. He didn't have any energy for her to use. Did she know? His panic must have shown on his face as he looked up at Bakugo. Kachan, recovery girl, what does she... The other boy grabbed Izuku's upper arm, cutting him off from his panic without the use of words. Yeah, she figured it out, Deku. You aren't exactly good at hiding it, he mumbled. Izuku's breath hitched, and suddenly it was harder to get air in. No, don't freak out. It's okay, I promise. Bakugo rushed, moving his hands to his fingers now interlocked with Izuku's. She just wants to help. We all do. Izuku rapidly shook his head, his grip on Bakugo's hand getting slightly tight. It was almost painful. Bakugo was starting to panic too, not knowing how to help Izuku. As a last-ditch effort, he grabbed Izuku's face in his hands and turning so he was forced to look at him. Hey, it's gonna be okay. I promise you. I need you to take some deep breaths, okay? Can you do that? Izuku slowly nodded. Good. Match my breathing, Bakugo instructed, taking a deep breath in and slowly releasing it. Izuku followed. They did this for a minute until Izuku's heartbeat finally started to even out and he felt himself started to relax. Thank you, Kachan, he mumbled. Bakugo dropped his hand. No problem. They sat there in an uncomfortable silence until Izuku suddenly grabbed the blonde's hand. He pulled it into his lap and began messing with his fingers. Bakugo swallowed hard as he looked at the shorter boy. What are you doing? Helps me calm down, Izuku answered in a murmur, not taking his eyes off his hands in his lap. Oh. Dear God, just make out already, a feminine voice said from the doorway, making both boys jump. Ashido, Kaminari, Sero, and Kirishima were all walking into the nurse's room. Meadow, you're awake, Kaminari cheered, rushing over to the hospital bed and climbing on, sitting next to the green-haired boy. How you feeling? Izuku smiled at his friend. Better, actually. My head hurts, but the rest of me feels pretty good. Probably the IV, Sero told him, pulling up the chair next to Bakugo's. Ashido and Kirishima grabbed chairs and sat on the other side of the bed. This is where Izuku looked down at his arm and realized he had an IV. Oh. The 4 newcomers laughed, but the volume was lower than it would normally be. They were all trying to be considerate of Izuku's head. Kaminari started to animatedly talk to Izuku, explaining something he missed while he was unconscious. And Ashido took the opportunity to shift over to Bakugo. I can get them all out of here if you want some alone time to ask him out, she whispered. Bakugo made a strangled noise at the insinuation. What? She rolled her eyes. Hun, we can all see you're clearly heads over heels. You both are for each other, so just ask him out already. Rip the band-aid off, or whatever. We aren't? I don't? Okay, you 3, Ashido called. We should let Midoriya rest some more. Lord knows he needs it, she said, giving the green-haired boy a pointed look. He sheepishly smiled at her in return, the 4 of them clearing out rather quickly. almost suspiciously fast, especially for them. All that was left was Bakugo and Izuku. Hey, do you want... The two boys spoke at the same time, freezing at the other's voice registered. You go first. You can talk first. They did it again. No, you. Go ahead. They fell in silence, both boys waiting for the other to talk first this time. Eventually, Izuku groaned in annoyance. Fine, I'll just talk then. Bakugo smirked at how worked up he was, his motions with his hands for Izuku to continue talking. Kachan, do you maybe want to... You don't have to if you don't want to, obviously, but I was wondering if you might want to maybe... It was getting painful for Bakugo to watch at this point. Izuku was clearly never going to man up and ask. I'll go out with you, nerd. Izuku shot his head up in complete surprise. Huh? He asked, dumbfounded. The blonde let out a small chuckle, the sound melting Izuku's little heart. I said I'll go out with you. Oh. Yeah. Oh. Well then. Damn nerd, Bakugo said with another chuckle. Izuku stared at him with a look of pure awe. Do that again. Do what? Laugh. Bakugo looked like he officially lost his mind. Why the fuck do you want me to laugh? I haven't heard you laugh in a non-threatening way since we were 4, Izuku said in a sort of duh tone. Oh. Izuku stifled his own laugh now. Yeah, oh. I'm sorry just about everything I've ever done, Bakugo admitted, looking as if it physically pained him to say that. Izuku shook his head. I forgave you for that a long time ago, Kachan. Bakugo shook his head. Nerd, but apparently I'm your nerd now, Izuku said with a loud laugh, but quickly cut himself off and grabbed his head. Ouch. Idiot, Izuku said with an eye roll. You should get some more sleep. Izuku nodded his head and yawned. Perfectly timed, really. Bakugo's hand moved to stand, wanting to let Izuku sleep in peace, but a hand shot out to stop him. Stay, please? Izuku asked him, avoiding looking at the crimson eyes in front of him. It took Bakugo a few seconds to process what the shorter boy had done, and he nodded his head. Yeah, I'll stay. Izuku softly smiled, scooting over in the bed. Bakugo got the silent invitation and crawled next to him. Izuku didn't hesitate in resting his head on the crook of Bakugo's neck. Thank you, Kachan. For what? Everything. Yay, I'm done, finally. Fuck yeah. Woo. Okay. This series is finally over. Now we just have another series to finish. Okay, so the next one should be the Bakugo's on the streets, because that's the next short one that's due to be returned. I mean, not returned. Done. So I'll get started on that as soon as I can. Alright, if you want to see more of this and my stagnated posting schedule, it's all over the place. But I posted on why that is the case, so everyone knows that I'm not dead or anything like that. But if you want to see more, you know what to do.